Della Garlic, interviewed in Montgomery, Alabama, interviewed by Margaret Fowler, age when interviewed, 100 years old. Slavery days was hell. I was growed up when the war come, and I was a mother before it closed. Babies were snatched from their mother's breasts and sold to speculators. Children were separated from sisters and brothers and never saw each other again. Course they cry, you think they not cry when they were sold like cattle. I could tell you about it all the day, but even then you couldn't guess the awfulness of it. It's bad to belong to folks that own you, soul and body, that can tie you up to a tree with you face to the tree and your arm fastened tight around it, who take a long curling whip and cut the blood every lick. Folks a mile away could hear them awful whippings. They was a terrible part of living. I was born at Powhatan, Virginia, and was the youngest of 13 children. I never seen none of my brothers and sisters except Brother William. Him and my mother and me was brought in a speculator's drove to Richmond and put in a warehouse with a drove of other niggers. Then we was all put on a block and sold to the highest bidder. I was never seed Brother William again. Mammy and me was sold to a man by the name of Carter, who was the sheriff of the county. They wasn't no good times at his house. He was a widower and his daughter kept house for him. I nursed for her, and one day I was playing with the baby. It hurt its little hand and commenced to cry, and she rolled on me, picked up a hot iron and run it all down my arm and hand. It took off the flesh when she done it. After a while, Master married again, but things weren't no better. I seed his wife blacken her eyebrows with smut one day, so I thought I'd black mine just for fun. I rubbed some smut on my eyebrows and forgot to rub it off, and she catched me. She was powerful mad and yelled, "You black devil, I'll show you how to mock your betters." Then she picked up a stick of stove wood and flailed it against my head. I didn't know nothing more till I come to, lying on the floor. I heard the missus say to one of the girls, I thought her thick skull and cap of wool could take it better than that. I kept on staying there. One night, the master come in drunk and sat at the table with his head lolling around. I was waiting on the table, and he took up and see me. I was scared, and that made him awful mad. He called an overseer and told him, take her out and beat some sense in her. I began to cry and run in the night, but finally I run back by the quarters and heard Mammy calling me. I went in, and right away they come for me. A horse was standing in front of the house, and I was took that very night to Richmond and sold to a speculator again. I never see my Mammy anymore. I have thought many times through all these years how Mammy looked. That night, she pressed my hand in both of hers and said, be good and trust in the Lord. Trusting was the only hope of the poor black critters in them days. Us just prayed for strength to endure it to the end. We didn't expect nothing but to stay in bondage till we died. I was sold by the speculator to a man in McDonough, Georgia. I don't recollect his name, but he was opening a big hotel at McDonough and brought me to wait on tables. But when the time come around to pay for me, his hotel done failed. Then the Atlanta man that bought the hotel, bought me too. Before long, though, I was sold to a man by the name of Garlic down in Louisiana, and I stayed with him till I was freed. I was a regular field hand, plowing and hoeing and chopping cotton. Us heard talk about the war, but us didn't pay no attention. Us never dreamed that freedom would ever come. Us didn't have no parties on our plantation, nothing like that. Us didn't have no clothes for going round. I never had an undershirt until just before my first child was born. I never had nothing but a shimmy and a slip for a dress, and it was made out of the cheapest cloth that could be bought, unbleached cloth, coarse but made to last. Us didn't know nothing except to work. Us was up by 3 or 4 in the morning, and everybody got something to eat in the kitchen. They didn't give us no way to cook, nor nothing to cook in our cabin. Soon as us dressed, us went by the kitchen and got our piece of cornbread. There wasn't even no salt in them last years. That piece of cornbread was all us had for breakfast, and for supper us had the same. For dinner us had boiled victuals, greens, peas, and sometimes beans. Us never know nothing about coffee. One morning I remembers I had started to the field, and on the way I lost my piece of bread. I didn't know what to do. I started back to try to find it, and it was too dark to see. But I walked right slow and had a dog that walked with me. He went on ahead, and after a while I come on him lying there guarding that piece of bread. He never touched it, so I give him some of it. Just before the war, I married a man named Chatfield from another plantation, but he was took off to war and I never seen him again. After a while, I married a boy on the plantation named Miles Garlic. Master Garlic had 2 boys in the war. When they went off, the master and his missus cried, but it made us glad to see them cry. They made us cry so much. When we knowed we was free, everybody wanted to get out. The rule was that if you stayed in your cabin, you could keep it, but if you left, you lost it. Miles was working at Wetumpka. He slipped in and out so us could keep on living in the cabin. My second baby soon come, and right then I made up in my mind to go to Wetumpka, where Miles was working for the railroad. I went on down there and us settled down. After Miles died, I lived there long as I could, and then come to Montgomery to live with my son. I was eating white bread now and having the best time of my life. But when the Lord say, Delia, well done, come up higher, I'll be glad to go.